All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our Trailblazers webinar today. My name is Cheryl O'Connor. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Income Conductor, an innovative and award-winning retirement income planning technology. Joining me today is my co-host, Mark Butler, dressed very Christmassy. Mark is a consultant to wealth management and wealth tech firms and founder of Wealth Management GPT. How you doing, Mark?
Cheryl, doing great. Thanks for having me today. Congratulations again on this great series. As you remember, we had the opportunity to be joined by Brett Ramsey a couple weeks ago, which I thought was a real success. Brett was great, and looking forward to hearing from John today.
Yeah, so am I. So just to set the stage for those of you attending your first Trailblazer webinar with us, this series highlights the people in our industry who are forging new paths and developing new ways to achieve success while providing great outcomes for their clients. We welcome your questions, so please use the Q&A box to type in questions at any time during the conversation today, and we'll make sure that we leave time at the end to address them. So I want to welcome our Trailblazer today, Cambridge advisor John Halterman, founder and owner of Beacon Wealth Management in Bridgeport, West Virginia. John is a best-selling author, has appeared as a guest speaker on all of the top TV networks and at hundreds of large organizations, and is an expert host on 2 weekly news segments on television stations in his local area. John specializes in helping individuals live their best retirement, which is how we met because he is a Income Conductor user. But most importantly, John's been married to his lovely wife, Lisa, for almost 20 years and has 3 amazing children. So welcome, John.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great to have you.
It's great to be here. I'm excited.
So we named this webinar Building a Marketing Powerhouse, and you really have. So I know our viewers are really anxious to get some advice from you, hear what you're doing with your business, and take away some great tips. So first, I thought you could talk about really sort of setting the stage here in your business, the importance of finding your client niche, and also really deciding what your work-life balance is going to look like.
Sure. It's funny because I've been in this business almost 30 years. And, one of my early mentors was a guy who he made a lot of money. But he traveled everywhere. He worked all hours. He worked sometimes at 6 a.m, 8 p.m. He was just very sporadic. And he was always telling me how I needed to learn how to be a better salesman. And I kept telling him, I said, you know what? I said, I think what you're doing is fantastic. I just don't want to live your lifestyle, because I felt like his lifestyle wasn't supportive of a family. And so I had said to him, I said, you know what? I said, I want to really develop a professional practice where people come to me, where I only work limited amount of hours. I work designated time slots and do different things. And he's like, you're going to fail. There's no doubt about it. You're going to fail. This is a disaster. And I said, okay. I said, what's fine? I said, but so I said to my wife early on, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to do this very deliberate. I'm going to decide that, I don't want to work 5, 6, 7 days a week. I want to work 4 days a week. And I only want to do 3 days a week where I'm actually in sessions with clients. And we do them at the exact same time every single day. So I work Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 9, 10:30, 12, and 2:30. That's our session time. So we do 12 sessions a week. I use Monday to basically do what we call Marketing Monday. And that's to do things such as, make videos, go on TV, do our podcasts, just anything that's associated with coaching or whatever it may be. But I found that by doing it this way, I had a good balance between what I really enjoy, which is my family, and our outdoor adventures, and so, and I learned that from Dan Sullivan early on. Dan Sullivan said, hey, look, you got to make sure that you live deliberate and you do a schedule. It was more of a focus or free focus fluff. The free meant, hey, go through, schedule everything that you don't want, all the times you don't want to work throughout the year. So for me, that's pretty much 8 to 12 weeks a year. That's no Fridays, no Saturdays, and no Sundays. And then what he said was figure out how you make your money, whatever activities make you the most money. And so in our case, I always felt like it was sessions, events, and conversations with clients and prospects. That's really all I want to do. And so those are the things I do on those 3 days. And then, of course, my fluff days are just my filler days, which is my Monday.
And what about your client niche? Do you focus on a certain demographic or?
I have to. I live in one of the poorest states in America. And so the one thing I learned early on was that in my first 10 years, it was always an experiment to me. I was just trying to figure myself out. And I would take anybody who would want to talk to me. But what I realized is that an hour is an hour. Whether I spend that hour with somebody that has 50,000 or 50 million, the reality of it is it's making sure that I get the most of that hour. And so what I felt like in West Virginia, we don't have any corporate Fortune 500 companies. We don't have any C-suite executives. We don't even have very many rich people. I mean, when I say rich, I'm talking about billionaires. But what we do have is we have a lot of what we call middle-class millionaires. And those middle-class millionaires typically are going to fall in the ages of 50 to 80. They're going to own a small business. They're going to be a professional practitioner, or they're going to be a responsible lifetime saver. We have a big FBI center. And so you wouldn't believe there's so many government employees that have anywhere between $1 to $3 million in their TSPs. And that's a great niche because those people have enough money where they need comprehensive wealth management, but at the same time, they're good quality people. And so that's where we found in West Virginia, because the limited amount of population density, we had to focus on just a certain demographic.
And I think that's what struck us as amazing in our first conversation was that you built this incredible business. You're living the life that you want to lead, as you just talked about a minute ago. And you're in West Virginia. And like you said, it is, I mean, this is a fact. It's one of the poorest states in the country. I think your town, you said, has about 10,000 people in it. And so, I think when we walked away from that initial conversation and we thought about that, coupled with the fact that you have built this unbelievable marketing machine, we were just like, wow, like John is a real trailblazer. Like we found the right person for episode number 2. Tell us a little bit about the marketing machine and I know it didn't happen overnight. I know you've built it up over time. Sounds like it's a well-oiled machine. You've actually put money and resources behind it. But tell our listeners, a lot of them probably struggle with this aspect of their practice and their business. Tell them a little bit about how you got started and where you are today.
Okay. Well, I think one of the worst things that happens out there is that there's so many people trying to get an angle on us as advisors. And they're always wanting us to do a little piece, and they want us to piecemeal our marketing together. And I think when we do it like that, I mean, it's fine to experiment for a while, but really we really need to start from an overview. And so we break our marketing down into 4 different things. Number 1 is going to be lead generation. I mean, if you don't have leads, there's no way you can grow your practice. The second thing is you've got to have a nurturing and development system, because you got clients that you got to nurture, and you also have prospects that you should be nurturing and treating them just as clients so that they know what it feels like to be your client. And then, of course, we have expert authority. A lot of people talk about being on TV, being on radio and things like that, but that's not instant gratification. It's a great way to build a long-term reputation. But if you go and spend all your money doing that right off the bat, you're not going to get instant results. And then the last thing is, I want to be a good person. I want the community to think, when they think of me, that they think that, hey, this person cares deeply. And so we are deeply involved in charitable events and community sponsorships. And so that's how we break our 4 marketing things down into those categories.
And tell us where, because you didn't you probably didn't start there. I think you probably experimented with some stuff early on and said, hey, this is working, this isn't working. How did you get to those four things? Like, what drove you and said, you know what, these four things, this is what works in this target market and in my backyard here?
Well, a lot of it, like I said, comes from these different marketing people, coaches, and different things like that, and just experimenting with a lot of stuff. But the one thing that I found over and over that I kept coming back to is educational events. I think that educational events of all kinds is the absolute easiest thing we can do. Whether it's the traditional public education event that, you invite people to a dinner, whether it's teaming up with corporations and offering to educate their employees, whether it's working with civic groups, whether it's working with a variety of things like our local chamber. In our local chamber, every year they let me come in and speak at a breakfast, and they have 50 people there. Now, don't get me wrong. They asked me to buy the breakfast. They asked me to do a few things, but in exchange, I get the stage. And the one thing that I know is if you're teaching anything, you're going to be viewed as an expert. And so the more stages you can get on, the more opportunity there's going to be people to listen to you. And then, of course, you've got to have a great way to collect data. You got to give things away. So we always give things away during our events so that they'll give us data. And then we'll ask people if they want to come to see us. Doesn't matter what it is. And if they don't, then that's when we go to nurturing. Because the one thing I know is every single year, we get all kinds of people who say to me, hey, I heard you speak 15 years ago, and I didn't think I had enough money, and now I'm retiring, but you kept in contact with me. You kept in contact. We sent them an email every single week. We invited them to our Wisdom to Wealth monthly educate. We have another educational event that's just designed for our clients and of course, prospects too. But the lead generation is centered around making sure that we do as many educational events a year as we can. We try to do 24 of them because we believe that the more you do, the more opportunities you're going to get to be able to showcase what you actually know. And what ours is always centered around is how do we solve issues? We always give examples of scenarios, problems with clients, and what we do as a firm to solve those issues.
So, John, I think it's really interesting you call yourself an edutainer.
Yeah, edutainer. Yeah.
And one of the stories that I love, because a lot of advisors, they do seminars. So they'll do dinners or, events at local educational institutions, and they'll focus on financial topics. What I found was really interesting was that you're kind of tapping into the resources around you, like the FBI Center.
Oh, yeah.
And putting on these, events where it has nothing to do with financial topics. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I mentioned 24, I mentioned 24 of our events for lead generation and lead generation only. In addition to that, we do 11 events for our clients and our nurturing program. And so in those 11 events, I'm a firm believer. We host them the third Friday of the month. We do it at noon. It's a great opportunity just to show people that we're more than just a financial firm. So we do a lot of things. Like this year we brought in the FBI to do active shooting. And I got to tell you, when the FBI comes in and they bring in 6 agents and they let off 4 guns, they shoot 4 guns, it's a big experience because it teaches people what to do in the event that there's an active shooter in the place. And that could happen at church, that can happen in ball games, anywhere. And so that was a big draw. We brought in the American Heart Association during February because what we know is that people could have a heart attack. And so what we want to prepare people for is if someone has a heart attack while you're standing there in church, what do you do? Can you administrate CPR? So we taught them how to do that. We brought in fun things like charcuterie and bourbons, because everybody wants to drink a little bourbon. We got to have some fun. And of course, making a very nice charcuterie board impresses all their friends. So we want to teach them how to be more impressive to their friends. We brought in the first aid people or the EMS people because anybody could be in a car wreck. So if you're in a car wreck and your family gets cut, what do you do until the people get there? So there's all kinds of topics. We brought in cybersecurity experts, because everybody wants to know what happens, when you're getting these weird emails, what's happening with that stuff. So there's all kinds of, and so that's what we do because we believe that the sessions that we do, the strategy sessions, is where we teach the financial stuff. And don't get me wrong, we do incorporate 3 or 4 strategy sessions throughout. Like we did bring in an estate planning attorney. We did talk about, wealth transfer and long-term care, but we want to make sure that we're always highly engaging. And the one thing we know is if we do strategy sessions and we do everything financial, it just doesn't make us feel human. It just makes us feel robotic. And we don't want to be that.
Hey, John, we did get a question in from the audience asking about which, the client events specifically, which ones are you getting the biggest bang for the buck? You ran through a couple really interesting ones that I think most advisors aren't necessarily doing, but I think are just important to our daily lives. Which are the ones that have really resonated with your clients?
Well, I can tell you the things like the FBI, the heart, all of those. So what we try to do, our goal is to get about 50 people to our events. We have an event center here at our office. And so we try to get 50 people. We have a brunch that we do ourselves. It costs us about $500. All the speakers that we bring in are typically free. The FBI, I got to tell you, if you have an FBI center near you, they are so cooperative. They want good publicity. They come in for free. I mean, they sent 6 FBI agents in. Okay. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's like they sent a mini army to us, and people didn't know what was going to happen. But those type of things, you just get it down. I mean, we have several people on our team that help, but we do it all ourselves. It's just kind of like a nice buffet luncheon or brunch at a hotel that we do. And so we just go out and get some, great deli, some great desserts. We usually have some type of theme, but all of those. And our goal is that we want it to represent 30 million of our assets. The way I measure things is probably a little different than some people, but what I look at it is that if 30 million of my assets are represented on any given day, that represents a big revenue chunk. And so what I look at is I'm nurturing and engaging that revenue chunk on a regular basis. And so that's our goal over and over, is to get 50 people in, because it's manageable at 50. We have to cut people off all the time. And that's one of the things we tell them is like, hey, you don't want to miss, because as you know, if you don't sign up early, you don't get in because there's only so much space. And so that encourages you to come in, bring friends in. And, of course, when we're not talking about financial stuff, it's easy for them to bring friends because the friends want to know about this type of stuff. They think it's cool. And so any of those type of events, and we're going to mix it up more. I mean, like we have gardening classes, we have basket classes, we have wine classes, but anything that's, again, it's about the teaching. You said it, edutainment. It's part educating, part entertainment.
So it sounds like your office is a beehive of activity.
We do.
What kind of staffing structure do you require to support all of this marketing?
I think, and I think that's the thing too, is that it really takes 4 people. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have more than 4 because we have bigger goals than what that is. But if you're a new person, the one thing I would always say is don't get caught up in thinking that you can do this on your own. You definitely have to have staff. I mean, the very first person you have to have is, in our eyes, is a client support coordinator. That is the person that's going to open your new accounts. That's the person that's going to do data processing. That's the person that's going to service. And we have 4 of those, but you don't have to have 4 of them. The second person you have to have is you've got to have a community development coordinator. There is no way you can go out and do as much things as we do and not have someone coordinate it and follow up for you. So I have a person who sets up my events and does all that stuff. In addition to that, we are very proactive. And so you've got to have someone that's going to call your clients. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to hire them. There's fractional services out there who will do some of this work for you. And so what I tell you is that if you don't think you're ready to have all those staff members, don't sweat it like that. I mean, go out and get the fractional services, because those fractional services do an amazing job at calling your clients to establish strategy sessions, call your clients to do check-ins. And those types of things lead to these other things. So it is a big, big cycle that you have to work through, but I think you can do it with 4 people.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because I've spoken to so many advisors who struggle with growing their business. And it's sort of like the chicken and egg thing, right? They can't hire additional staff until they have more assets. So looking out for those, those 1099 people, those fractional people who you can use selectively, and then increase their time as you grow and eventually turn them into employees is a good strategy. So you
Well, and
mentioned,
one of the things I would tell people is you got to get rid of the sales mentality.
yeah.
I would tell you that if you're waiting to sell more to get more, that's a wrong approach. You got to look at this as a business. You got to look at it as a business. And right from the beginning, if you opened a dental practice or a legal practice or a medical practice, you would hire and bring on the staff immediately. And so that's how you've got to look at yourself, is that if you have a total game plan, and of course, you can't just do this if you're going out and winging it like they taught us in the beginning. But if you really have a blueprint of how you're going to run your practice, who's your niche, what are you going to do to work? I mean, how often are you going to work? What's the role of each player on your team? What's the SOPs that you have? Are you tracking your KPIs? If you have that blueprint, then you can go, I would say, go out, go ahead and hire those people, because, it's the smartest thing I think anybody should do, because we have to have a team. I always say 1 + 4 does not equal 5. 1 + 4 is more like 20 if you have people doing the right things.
Yeah. That's great advice, John. And I think that's helpful for a lot of the folks that are on the video here today. We have a question from Erica asking, when you host different teaching events, do you also teach finance during part of it?
Not on the ones that we do monthly. So remember, we do lead generation events. And so when we do our 24 lead generation events, those are all financial stuff. So when we do the public education, the civic group type things, the things with the Harrison County Chamber, different associations, those are all financial driven, and those are all designed to generate leads. But the 11 that we host in our office, those are all what we call wisdom to wealth. And so what that is we tell people is we're teaching you how to enrich your lifestyle, so that it's not just about money, it's about enrichment, it's about improvement of life. And so we do a combination of the two.
Awesome.
So how do you get people to the financial education focused events? Because this is another, people have used lead gen companies and not been satisfied. What's your success there?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Anybody who tells you that public education events where you go to a marketing firm doesn't work, no, it works. It works everywhere. But let's say you're on a budget. The one thing I would tell you is go to associations, go to civic groups, go to your local chamber, go to anyone that has a group. And today it's easier than ever because you can find all this stuff on the internet. All you have to do is Google any local association. There's dental associations, there's medical associations. And guess what all these people need? They need us. They need speakers. They need the knowledge that we have. And so all you have to do is go offer to do it. And, and what I always tell people is that, hey, look, we're in a time in society where incomes are at the highest level they've ever been. But unfortunately, fiscal education is not at a very high level. And what we also see is that everything is on your own. Nobody's going to take care of you. The government is not going to take care of you. There's no pensions out there. And so your people need financial education, because the more financial education they have, the better they're going to be at their job. And the better they're going to be at their job, then the better, more profit you as a company or you as an association is going to make. And so they love hearing that. And they said, wait a minute, what's in it for you? I said, well, I'll tell you what's in it for me. It's called credibility. What I want to do is I want people to know that I'm an expert in my community. I want them to know that when they think retirement, that they should call John Halterman. And so the only way, so what I'm doing is I'm exchanging my knowledge and giving it away for free, but in exchange, I'm building up my credibility. And so you build up your credibility. They give you the people who attend, they give you the names. We get, like I said, we always give away something because people want free gifts. And when we get free gifts, guess what? We're asking for their contact information. We're asking them, do they have assets? We're asking them, would they like to talk? So that we know things. And that doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, but there's all kinds of retiree associations. Like the FBI has, the federal government has a retiree association that everyone goes to eat lunch. So these places are looking for speakers. And so you don't have to do the public education event. Now, the public education event will get the highest volume of people because we usually get 50 of them to come to that. But all these other events are good events to get anywhere between 15 to 30. And if you do them on a regular basis and you're doing them at a low cost, it's really an amazing thing.
Yeah, and I bet your name gets around too. As a
Oh, yeah, you all found my name, so looky there.
So we have a few minutes left. I'd encourage people to submit some questions or comments if you have them. But maybe you could talk about the technology you use. Does that help you in any way, determine how you're doing, help you manage your KPIs? What do you use for technology, John?
So KPIs and technologies are two different things to me. I mean, unless you're going to use Salesforce, which I don't know how many advisors use Salesforce, but there's definitely people like you all, income conductor. I mean, let's face it, you've got to be able to present in a very clear manner to your clients. And in our case, we're doing segmentation. And so because we're doing segmentation, we call it the retirement red zone investment strategy. And what we believe in is that we believe in that part of the money needs to be in fixed assets, part of the money needs to be in tactical, and part of the money needs to be in strategic. And what we find is that if we do it like that, number one, we believe it's better for our clients. But number two, our clients feel comfortable when they're taking income out of the fixed portion. And so by having access to people like Income Conductor, it's an easy way to illustrate exactly what we're doing. And so absolutely, of course, you got to have good email. Like we email every single week. The one thing I tell people is if you're not utilizing an email service, you're kidding yourself. And there's so many companies out there that will offer. We do our own because ours is that when we send them a financial one in the beginning of the month, then we send them our videos because I'm on TV every week. So I'm on TV, we do podcasts and things like that. So I think we do around 20 videos a month on TV. So because that, we send them all that. We send up what's in our upcoming events. And then we do a feel good. We use Feel Good and their feel good letter, which people absolutely love. We send out holiday love all the time. We send out 6 cards a year because we still believe that when you open a card and you're like, wow, they hand wrote that, so those things are so important. But again, this is not something you do right from the beginning. The thing I tell you is prioritize. You got to do lead generation first. If you don't have a way to get leads, you're kidding yourself. The second thing is you've got to nurture your existing clientele and the prospects who were not ready. Because the one thing I know is, not every prospect is ready to turn over their lifetime savings, but just like dating, you got to continue to show them a little bit of love, that love affair marketing. And so we love on them every single week, every single month. And we don't really bother them. I mean, we just let them take the love in. Eventually they come and say, you know what, you love me so much. You love me more than my existing advisor, and so we become the person that they know that cares about them because their advisor never did all the things. And then, of course, then if you want to try to get on TV networks need you too. Radio shows need you. Your newspaper needs you. I mean, my town is small, so they need me more than I need them. So they'll let me come on there and say anything I want. Now, I say anything I want. I mean in a professional manner. Of course, we talk about the financial stuff there. Now, the podcast gets a little wild. I feel like I'm on ESPN. I can just kind of have fun with the podcast. But then, of course, the charitable things. We have 5 big charities that we give to and we're very involved in. And so because of that, it's not just giving your money, but it's being involved, getting to know the people. Because if you want to meet people with money, well, guess what? People with money give to things. And so you go there and you take leadership roles and you show them that you're going to put your money in and more importantly, your time in. And then, of course, we sponsor everything. If you are in our town, because we're a small town, you say, hey, look, we're raising uniforms. We're doing this. We're doing that. Absolutely. Because our name is at every gymnasium, at every football field, at every T-shirt, but of course, this is not the first thing you do. This is what you do once you get to a certain point. There's a level of production. But the very first thing is about the KPIs. What I would tell you is that you got to try to get 25 new prospects a month. That would be the goal. Now, if you're thinking, whoa, wait a minute, I'm getting 2 or 3. No, if you do educational events and you do them as often as you can, you will be amazed at how many people you're in front of. Because the one thing I know, sitting in our office, putting ads on the internet, putting ads in the paper, putting us on billboards, that does nothing to get us immediate leads. But educating people and then giving them an offer of something free, because you got to give them that enticement. Then they're going to give us their data, and for that, we now can be engaged.
I love it. I love it. I'm feeling the love. How about that?
That's what we are.
I want to come to your events.
I know. We need to take a road trip to West Virginia. Hey, John, we got a question from Megan, and she's asking, would love to know what sort of giveaways people respond well to. And do you have a template you could share for what information you're able to collect successfully?
Yeah, we have a template. Yeah. So in there, so when we do this educational event, okay, so what we're doing is we're telling them it's called a response card. And we tell them right up front, hey, look, there's going to be a response card at the end that we're going to ask you to complete. And by doing that, you're going to get a chance to win a gift certificate to your favorite restaurant in our county. And I always say, how many of you love to eat at Julio's or Wonder Bar or this or that? And they're always like, yeah. They get real excited. So they want that chance because, and so we make it fun. We have them all fill it out. We bring it in, we tell little jokes. I'll say, hey, if someone here draws their own name, do we throw them out, because it's rigged? I mean, what do we do here? And we make it suspenseful. We have them do a little drum roll. We make it a big deal because those are the little things that's going to cause them to be engaged. I mean, remember, if all we do is stand up here and go, I'm John Halterman. I'm a financial advisor. I'm really good. Well, guess what? No, they think I suck. Okay. So we have to make it engaging. We have to make it informative, and we have to make sure that they have something that gives them a chance to win something in order for them to be willing to give their data to us. And so we're going to collect, and it's going to say, hey, here's the things that we talked about. What are those that interest you? Give us some phone, some of your personal information. Do you want to sit down? And then what are some of your assets? Those are the things that we put in this response card.
Awesome.
Very
awesome.
Cool.
I love it.
All right. Well, we're 5 minutes past the hour, but we could keep on listening to you, John. You say you're not sales focused, but you're a great salesperson. And I hope everybody on the webinar today felt the love. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, John. Thanks, Mark. And I hope everybody has a happy holiday. And we'll see you at the next Trailblazer webinar. Take care.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Great day. Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Happy holiday.